disclaimer, this is my opinion. I am in no way making comments about the companies that these artists belong to or the way they treat their artists. It's just, taking into consideration young children's health and growth. So, hi, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be talking about Monsta X's comeback, which was delayed by 2 weeks because Shownu hurt his back. He sprained his back. We don't know the specifics, and we probably will never know the specifics of how he hurt himself. We assume it's because of practicing, and if you don't know, Kpop idols tend to train from a very young age, maybe 14, 15, 16, 17 and going upwards, and so they tend to have a lot of injuries, as do dancers do. But why does it seem more and more prevalent that K-pop idols are having these injuries and now having to take time off from them? So essentially, we know that Monsta X has some very intense choreography. If you've ever watched Follow, if you've ever watched Alligator, it is some intense choreo. Like, they're really going like this and like slamming their body into, like, they have to take the entire force of their weight and slam it into the ground in order to make these moves very effective and very powerful and very meaningful. So that tends to take a toll on the artist's body, right? As it does with any dancer or anything. They tend to have more of these repetitive injuries, especially if, say, you're a ballet dancer, you're going to have a lot of these injuries in your feet potentially, and you're going to develop, like, use your joints a lot. So your joints are going to be a little bit stiffer if you don't take, the correct supplements, if you don't take care of your body, if you don't do therapy properly, if you don't do working out properly. Like, it can affect a lot of these things. So it is not the first time that an idol has had to take time off because they've hurt themselves. And I think that speaks to the larger part of the K-pop industry, in my opinion. And if you don't know, GOT7's JB had to take time off during one of the promotion periods because he had hurt his back as well. And I believe it ended up being a slipped disc, which, if you don't know what a slipped disc is, it's kind of a misnomer, or it's the wrong wording to use concerning medical terms. So I'm going to insert a picture of what a slipped disc looks like, slipped disc or herniated disc. So essentially, in the back, we have our spine, right? But between these spines, we have this little fiber, we have this little band, right? And it's called the nucleus pulposus, right? If that nucleus pulposus, and then you have the nerve running all the way on the back. So you see the nerve running all the way on the back, right? And if that, depending on where it can essentially burst, right, or like disintegrate, is that's where it starts to press on the nerve. If that substance starts to press on the nerve, then it can lead to serious back pain and back injury. Look at the spinal column. It's going to essentially push against that nerve, and when it pushes against that nerve, it traps it, and when it traps it, essentially it presses on it and makes it extremely painful. Sorry for the quick medical lesson. We know that Lay Zhang from EXO has a slipped disc. He actually has stated that he has a slipped disc, and you can Google it to see that he has one. And essentially, as a dancer, that is one of the most severe injuries, and you actually have to take time off for it to heal as best as it can. And you do have to go through a lot of physiotherapy to just make it more comfortable for you and to essentially gain back some sensation in the locations that it's become numb in. And you, a common person, me, say, were to get it, it'd be extremely painful and it hurt. And, to continue working on that same thing and not taking care of it would actually lead you to need to have surgery on your back. And that's one of the hardest surgeries to heal from, because essentially you're dealing with nerves, you're dealing with the spinal cord, baby. It's not going to be easy. And so that's kind of where I'm coming from in terms of that perspective. Also, from what I understand from like the trainees and like listening to their stories and stuff like that, they are put on such a restrictive diet. Like, I've been watching a lot of something called Idol Producer or Youth with You, which was something that was produced in mainland China for the development of their boy groups, right? And so as I look at them in their boy groups, I notice something about the way that the trainees are fed. And this is not against any thing. And even Lei Zhang himself explained the way that he used to have to train in order to succeed. These trainees don't get enough nutrition during their most important growth period. If you don't know, girls do mature much faster between the ages about 14 to 18, and boys mature from 16 to almost 21 years of age. And in that age range, when they're training, when they're debuting and stuff like that, and they're under a lot of pressure to either lose weight or gain weight or to maintain the certain image, it takes a negative toll on their body in the long term. And an idol's life can be fairly short, and that's something that like we as consumers have gotten used to. But at the same time, these people are still human beings, and we need to recognize that it's not only our idols treatment that we are going for. We are also going from the perspective of future idols, future trainees, they need to be eating properly in order to have sustainable growth, in order to not hurt themselves, in order to not injure themselves as often. They do need to take it easy from time to time. They are not machines, even though they look like they are. They essentially get stunted because of various injuries and stuff like that. It does take an effect on the long term of their growth and their development and their mental and emotional impact. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take Lei Zhang as an example, not that there's anything wrong about it, but he essentially, since he has not been living in Korea full time, he's essentially lived on airports, in planes, and in hotels, and at whatever studio he's working at that day. You know what I mean? I'm sure he has a home, but also for his safety, I'm sure that he's staying in different hotels. So, that he works extremely hard, but it's just like at the same time, like, you do worry about their health because, they constantly tell us to worry about our health and for us to be concerned about our health. But then, you watch them and, they're not eating as much as they do. Mind you, Shownu is an exception. If you look at his most current V Live, literally an exception. He just ate whatever he wanted to. And that's totally reasonable. You know what I mean? But I remember watching a video a long time ago. It was by Simon Martina from Eat Your Kimchi. That's what it was called at the time. And they would shoot things for different companies. And as they shoot things for different companies, like, they wouldn't get any food. Like, that was the norm. That was a standard, like 10 years ago. And when you listen to some of these current K-pop idols, they're like, oh, the trainees have it better than us now. Mind you, these trainees debuted like 3 or 4 years ago. It's like, oh, they have it better than us now. They have more money to get more food, and it's kind of a really complex system in which the trainee world exists and then the K-pop idol world exists. Like, they are two entities that really don't make sense. And Shownu from Monsta X, it's not necessarily that it was entirely preventable. He probably would have had this issue later on or whatever, but it was an injury that should have been taken way more seriously, in my opinion. He may have been we don't know, he may have been getting therapy for the last year and we don't know. But also, coming from the perspective of a fan, it's just like, when you first get this injury, take it so seriously, because we don't want them to be hurt. It's the same as if it was your friend. We don't want you to be hurt. We don't want you to be in pain. But then, this happens and it's just like chaos ensues. So it's like, what do? You don't do anything. You kind of just like send them good wishes and hope that they get better. Not necessarily just for their comeback or just for their music. It's just like, you are a human being and you're in pain. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's my opinion. And I'm sorry if this is like a Debbie Downer moment, but I just like wanted to express my opinion on just like this situation that's going on in the K-pop industry. And we know that for a fact that's like some of the idols have been taking off more time as they become injured. And I think that needs to become the norm. It doesn't need to be, it needs to be in sensational news. I think it needs to become a norm that, a K-pop someone is injured, they have taken time off in order to make their health better, their long-term health better. It's not okay to say, we're just going to do this for a short period of time and it's a quick fix. Health is not a quick fix. Health is a long-term investment that needs to be considered when you're doing things, right? If you have anything to say to me about the K-pop industry and injuries. These are the most notable ones that I've found. I know that there's many, many more, but these are just the ones that I currently follow, so that's why I know about them. So if you have anything else to say, please let me leave it down below. Please leave a like and a comment on this video if you like it, and please subscribe and follow me on my Instagram. It's called Taking a Yummy Break, and I'm right now doing a 365-day photo challenge, and we will see how far it gets. So yeah. So, bye.